Welcome everyone to a special opening day edition of Best Bet. I'm your host, Frank Scatoni, and we are live on track on this glorious Thursday before the meet kicks off tomorrow. Going forward, we'll be doing this live every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Just a reminder, this is not a traditional selection show. We're not going to talk about every race. We are just going to look at specific races and wagering strategies that offer the best opportunities to make a decent score. If you're watching live, feel free to leave us a comment or ask us any questions. The show will also be archived on Del Mar's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube platforms. Now, to today's guest, he's the former editor of DRF Press, the author of the influential book Trainer Angles, and the racing analyst for the SoCal tracks for In the Money Media. Please welcome Dean Keppler. Dean, how are you doing?
Frank, it's great to be here with you. Excited to be, finally we got opening day. It's the time of year we wait for all year long, and excited to be part of it.
Yeah, you know, I feel like we're kindred spirits. We both have a publishing background. We both cut our teeth, on the East Coast racing circuit, and yet here we are all these years later analyzing California races on a daily basis. What appeals to you about the California circuit, and in particular the racing here at Del Mar?
You know, Frank, when I go back over the years and you look back at your memorable scores, I've always seemed to do well. You know, I was born on the East Coast, did the whole East Coast circuit, but most of my success has come in Southern California racing. Del Mar, in Santa Anita, I've done really well. I seem to have, just a knack for handling this, the Southern California circuit. And, most importantly, I think there's, a lot of value to be had here, as opposed to some of the tracks, specifically maybe Naira. You get paid here when when you stumble across something and you're fortunate enough to hit, one of the multi-race exotics, whether that be a pick 3, pick 4, or pick 5. I think the prices are decent. I think there's a lot of value to be had here. And like I said, I just always kind of went back to Southern California where, most of my success has been.
Yeah, just looking at the card for Friday, big full fields in every race. And, going through the races, the shortest morning line favorite all day in a couple of races is 3-1. So that just shows you how competitive the racing is going to be on opening day. And that was the same thing all last year. Everyone was thinking, maybe it's going to slow down a little bit, but the racing office did a tremendous job putting out a quality product, a safe product, and a product that gamblers could really, really sink their teeth into. And I expect more of the same this summer. So you're going to be writing every day for In the Money Media. Tell us a little bit about that, what you're doing and where people can find your work.
Yeah, Pete Fornatel, has done a great job with that site from its inception. And I've been covering Southern California racing there for probably about, I guess, going on 2 years now. It's been that long. But yeah, you can find my, my daily analysis for Del Mar will be up there on the site, usually the night before, sometimes, the morning of, but usually it's the night before. And we go through, with a complete analysis of the card and hopefully sift out some winners on there.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the handicapping process, what you do, the book Trainer Angles, tell us a little bit about that and what you look for when you're actually handicapping a card.
Yeah, I've always, been a big trainer guy. I think, actually specifically a meet specific trainer angles. I think that's a lot to be said for that some guys just excel on certain circuits, whether that be Del Mar or Santa Anita. They might have not done as well, at Santa Anita, but they perform well at Del Mar. So I think it's, a real important handicapping step for me. That's usually where I start. I look for, different angles that pop out of me, whether that be a first or second claim, horses coming off a long layoff, guys or gals that excel with first-time starters. Perhaps there's an equipment change or Lasix on, Lasix off. And, that's really where the basis of my handicapping starts there. Perhaps trying to find like a favorable angle that's a profitable angle for the specific meet. And then, I put the basic, nuts to bolts of speed figures. I also watch a lot of race replays of trip handicapping, and then try to incorporate everything else. But I usually start with, looking for an angle where a trainer has a positive percentage, a decent ROI, and that's usually where I start my handicapping from.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about that with Pete when I did his podcast yesterday, saying you want to spot a trend before it becomes a trend. So like you were saying with trainers, you want to figure out who's gonna be hot right off the bat, or maybe who's saving their stock for a little later in the meet, or getting a race under the belt over the surface and then having the horse fully cranked next time. So you really want to pay attention to that. And if you can spot those trends before they actually become trends, you will have tremendous value, because once they do become a trend, most everybody's on it. So I really like that approach to what you were saying with the trainer angles. So you also mentioned like trying to figure out some meet specific things. Is there anything when it comes to handicapping or playing Del Mar that kind of sticks out to you, or that's your go-to, or that you look out for throughout the meet?
Yeah, Frank, what I've noticed with this meet is the guys that start off well usually stay the course. When they start out poorly, it's only a 31-day meet, and there's not a whole lot of time to turn it around. And getting back to your earlier point, like trainer Dean Peterson went 8 for 12, nearly 70% in 2022. But just a tremendous stat. And if you were able to latch onto him early and play him out, the remainder of the meet, you did really well. So you got to look out for those kind of guys that are off to a fast start. There's typically a group of trainers that start fast. Bob Bafford's always off to a fast start here. Peter Miller, a couple others kind of slide under the radar. But you want to latch onto the guys that start well, because that's usually what I've seen in past meets. If they're quick out of the gate, they usually maintain that throughout the meet. If they start off slow, they have a hard time turning that around. Yeah,
you sent me a bunch of really, really interesting stats and kind of track trends, and I'm sure you'll mention some of that as we go through. But is there anything else in general you want to talk about? Some trainers to keep an eye out for in specific spots, whether it be 2-year-old racing or turf racing or anything like that?
Sure. Like I mentioned before here, Bafford, not to state the obvious, but he's 40% with first-time starters the last 5 years since 2018. I also mentored, trainer Dean Peterson. I'd be curious to see, what he does, if he can match what he did last year. Some other favorable jockey trainer combos: Mark Latt and Mike Smith, nearly 50%. Mathis and Frey, nearly 30%. And Sanchez and Berrios is a big hot combo, 4 for 7, nearly 60%. So, there's certain jockey trainer combos you certainly want to pay attention to. And, the couple that I listed there, have done really well.
Yeah, you mentioned the Berrios combination. He came here last year, and he had a terrific meet. He's a really good rider who I still believe is under the radar. And when he teams up with certain trainers from the Florida circuit who have a little string out here, they do really well. Speaking of that, do you give any extra credit to horses shipping from different circuits? Do you prefer horses coming? Obviously most of them are going to come from Santa Anita and Los Al, but do you weigh that at all? Where
I not so much specifically, with the ship and win program. You get a lot of horses that come in from South Florida that you got to pay attention to. But if I have a trainer and he's got a positive angle, to me it doesn't really matter to where they're shipping in from. If I got stats that back up the guy I'm specifically looking at, it doesn't matter to me if they're coming from Golden Gate or New York or Florida. If they got a positive stat, that's where I'm going to gear my attention to.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. We're going to get into the races. I know there are a couple of races that you want to talk about, but I just want to say that like the beauty of horse racing is you can have 10 sharp people in the same room, look at the same race, and they can all come up with different opinions and different horses. So I love that the races that you want to talk about are races that I didn't really have a strong opinion in because, such a competitive card and such competitive racing, I want to really pick and choose my spots on opening day. And I was going to actually, pass those races, but now after, talking to you, I'm going to have to get involved. So we'll start off with race 1. But before I say that, 5 stakes races over 3 days this weekend. There's a beer festival on Saturday, and on opening day, there is a $1 million guarantee payout in the pick 6 if you have the only ticket, if you're able to connect on that. So that's just some of the highlights that are going on here this weekend at Del Mar. Let's go to it. Let's go with the Lid Lifter. It's a 10-race Friday card, big full fields. I know you want to get things off to a fast start, Dean. So let's talk about it. It's a $16,000 open claimer contested at 1 mile on the main track. Morning line favorite is number 8, Next Revolt, at a tepid 3-1. Like I said, these are the lowest morning lines you're going to see all day, 3-1. There are no super standouts on this card. What are you going to go with here, Dean, to kick us off and hopefully start building our bankroll?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump right in. So perhaps this is going to set the tone for the entire meet, but hopefully it starts off in a positive note. I'm going to go right with the number 1 Tone Feeling here, 6-1 morning line. That last race, he was clearly overmatched, and to me, it just that just looks like a prep for this. He was in over his head in his first Southern California start there back on June 18th. He drops back into a winning spot here this afternoon for a barn that has great success with these low-level claimer route runners. And if you look back, Frank, at Tone Feeling's South Florida form, he certainly fits well here, and I think he's going to excel in this race here. I mean, I'll be delighted to get somewhere close to 6-1 in here. Like I said, I think that last race was just a prep for this. He's back to an appropriate level. Like I said, his barn does really well with these type of low-level claimers and dirt routes, and he's going to be my selection, to start off the day.
Yeah, Labrado Borusio, very good under the radar trainer. He knows what to do with a horse, and he knows how to spot him. And I agree with you. I mean, this horse is running against $50,000 allowance optional claimers, so he's got a big shot. So you're recommending? I know you're recommending a win bet on the horse. 6-1 morning line, and then you want to play some doubles going forward into race 2. So let me just segue right into that. It's a maiden special weight contested at 6.5 furlongs on the main track. The morning line favorite is number 5, Uncle Reg, at 3-1. I thought he looked pretty solid in here, but he doesn't have to win. But I thought he had a big shot. But it looks like you have someone else in mind in this race.
Yeah, I really like here the 7 horse Dowsum Silver for the DeSermo brothers. He was a well-beaten third last time back on May 26th. But if you look at some of his buyers here, they really fit well. And I think this horse is going to excel on the turn back here to 6.5 furlongs. This is coming up on start number 5. And I just think this is like the right spot. He's been knocking on the door, making up a little bit of ground going long, but I think that, the turn back is going to be key here. And I like the fact that they thought enough of him to run, take a crack at the Santa Anita Derby 2 back. That tells me that, this horse has some ability. They think he has some ability. I think that the turn back angle here for the, like I said, for the combination of the Sermo brothers. And I think this is going to be the maiden breaking spot here.
Yeah. So you're recommending a win bet on the horse at 5-1, and also you wanted to do an exacta wheel 7 with all, but you also have a couple of other horses, I guess, as backups to close out the double. If you hit race 1, do you want to talk about those?
Number 1 Central Dispatch, I think was legged up nicely for this with a third place finish last time at Losal on June 25th. He's a 3-year-old gelding by Arrogate. He's worked nicely since then. And, he's one I'm going to certainly throw underneath in the wheel exacta, and he's going to be my daily doubles with the 1. I'll also use number 3, Bye Bye Ray, who returned sprinting for a really shrewd barn here. And, he comes over from two efforts at Oakland were decent here. He's also going to be on my double. And I also threw in first-time starter number 6, Dr. Venkman. by Grade 1 winner Go Sapper, who's one of my favorite sires and actually favorite horses of all time. He's worked well for Mark Latt, who can win with a first time starter, but I was a little bit hesitant. He's actually 2 for 26, 8% with sprint debut runners at Del in our last 5 years. So a little low, lower than I'd like, but I think he's worth also throwing in the double. But the reason I'm going to wheel this horse here is I think we can really get a big price underneath, because I think it's a wide open maiden special weight.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme of the day. Just try and pick and choose your spots, because there will be value and you will get paid if you are correct. Let's move on to race 5. It's Calbred maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies, going 5 furlongs on the main track. The morning line favorite is number 8, Don't Worry Boss, at 3-1 for Andy Mathis. He actually has 2 horses in here. Does Andy Mathis hold the keys to the kingdom in this race?
Frank, I'm going to use both these horses, and I'd recommend doing so in any multi-race exotic in play, whether that's a pick 3. I believe it's part of the pick 6 sequence as well, starts there. Yes. But he's got some tremendous stats here with second-time starters. He's 8 for 16, 50% with a lofty ROI of 10.38 with second-time starters at Del Mar. So just a tremendous stat, and I think both these horses have a shot here. The 8's probably going to be a little bit of shorter price. If he finished a good second at Golden Gate back on June 10th. He's bred to handle the main track, and his stablemate, number 6, Smile Baby Smile, attracted some decent support in his Pleasanton debut. When finishing 4th, he can certainly move forward here. And like I said, I just go back to that trainer stat, which I think is fantastic in this spot, and I think both these horses are well met.
Yeah, there was a time, I'd say about maybe 5 years ago and prior to that, where the horses coming from Northern California had a really, really difficult time on this circuit, but that has changed a lot. There is some really good horsemen up there at Golden Gate. I think horses are able to get fit on the Tapeta surface up there. And now, you're going against players who might still hold to what once was conventional wisdom and would toss those horses. But like I said, they're winning, and they get it. Sometimes they get ignored on the tote board. So you can really make some money if you're able to get those winners shipping in from Golden Gate or even Pleasanton, and you're going to use those 2 in your multi-race sequences. And let's see if we can keep it going here. We're going to move to race 7, $50,000 starter allowance contested at 1 mile on the main track. Morning line favorite is number 8, Clooney, at 7-2. I thought this was a really, really tough race. I had to talk about this race with Pete when we did the late pick 5 analysis on the podcast. And I was basically, if you can spread as much as you can, go for it. But it looks like you have a horse here that you keyed in on.
Yeah, I'm going to go, this race to me, if it goes as, projects as I think it will be, I think it's going to be run pretty quickly early on, and it's going to set up from somebody from behind. And that's why I went with number 7, Keen to Go. Goes turf to dirt here, makes his second starter of the claim for Mullins, which is a great angle for him. He clicked close to around 30% with that maneuver. Like I said, there's a quick early pace. Should set up his closing kick here. He's certainly, by Keen Ice, bred to take to the main track. He had 1 start in his debut, which is he didn't do well, but I wouldn't judge him by off that. I think he's going to get a really nice setup in here. I like the angle second off the claim, and I just think he's going to get a great pace to close into. And he's got Hector Berrios too, we had spoken about earlier, and how well he's done out here in Southern California. So that only adds to the appeal for me there. So my selection will be number 7, Keen to Go. Perhaps behind him, I would use number 8, Clooney, and number 5, Golden Eye, who also goes turf to dirt. And it's going to be a clear front runner in here, but perhaps he holds on for second or third. If he gets away with some, pedestrian fractions on the front end there, but he'll definitely be in front of 5. So it'll be 7, 8, 5 for me in that spot. But I like 7, as my win selection.
Yeah, and owned by Little Red Feather Racing, big ownership group out here in California. They like to come to the track, they like to have fun, and they like to win a lot of races. Do you factor ownership groups or anything like that when you're handicapping? I know you have some stats about
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's I think it's huge, especially out here at these premier meets. You know, everybody wants to win at Del Mar, and there's a lot of trainer owner combos that do well. You know, a couple here I have written down: Freeman and Redham 4 for 6, 67%. Steve Maiati and Nick Alexander 4 for 12, close to 35%. Team O'Neill and R3 Racing's 5 for 11, 45%. So those are the guys, and you got to really pay attention to the trainer ownerships. You know, some do really, really well here, and you know, certainly worth following when they show up in the entries.
Yeah, I love it. I love trying to just look at things that most people don't. The game has gotten, in my opinion, so much harder over the last several years because there are so many good algorithms out there and good models. The market's really, really, really efficient, but there are some things that, you know, the models can't account for. So if you can find that, whatever edge it is, you have to exploit it before it no longer becomes an edge. Because as I was telling Pete, you know, what might be an edge today probably won't be an edge in the future, because somebody else will figure it out and then everybody will jump on it. So you want to spot those trends before they happen. This is great stuff, Dean. Thank you so much for taking the time, doing the work, throwing out some great stats. I will be back on Saturday on track doing the live handicapping seminar. So if you're coming out to the races, come see me in the Plaza de Mexico area, and we'll have a handicapping session with Pete Fornatel, who we mentioned from In the Money Media as well. And be back again on Sunday doing a live stream at 11 a.m. My guest that day will be Kieran Thornton. It's a really, really good contest player. He's a handicapper who likes to look for long shots and find some really good value plays. So I'm excited to talk to him. And you can go to the In the Money Media website and find Dean's analysis every day for the Del Mar meet. I love reading your stuff, Dean. You know, thanks for helping me out today, because like I said, I didn't really have strong opinions in those races. So I'll be able to.
Yeah, hopefully we sift that opener too. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I like tone feeling to set the tone for the season. Get off on the good foot. All right, Dean. Thanks so much, everyone out there. As I always like to say, good luck to us, and let's make some money.